It's been a wild reaction, actually, because it's been very split, weirdly enough, the reaction to these text messages. So his ex-girlfriend went on Instagram a year after they had broken up to release some of her messages with Jonah Hill that she wanted to share with the world, where she felt like he was being, mentally abusive and controlling, and was basically saying, a warning to girls out there if your guy starts talking to you like this. And weird text messages.
I mean, this is a side note, but it was funny that last weekend, I went to read this text to people I was talking to about it on the beach. And I pulled up Twitter and I put in Jonah Hill text, and I just clicked on the first picture that came up and I started reading it, but it was just a fake text. It was something about food, and I got 3 sentences in and I was like, wait a second.
This can't be right.
I was like, this isn't it. But this is it. This is a text that he sent her in 2021, the end of 2021, that he sent Sarah, Brady's ex. And he wrote, plain and simple, if you need, and then he lists things. Surfing with men, boundaryless, inappropriate friendships with men, to model, to post pictures of yourself in a bathing suit, to post sexual pictures, friendships with women who are in unstable places and from your wild recent past beyond getting a lunch or coffee or something respectful. I am not the right partner for you. So if you need any of those things, I'm not the right partner for you. If these things bring you to a place of happiness, I support it, and there will be no hard feelings. These are my boundaries for a romantic partnership. My boundaries with you based on the ways these actions have hurt our trust. So it's really, it's honestly became a fairly serious topic because it's opened up a discussion on how quote unquote therapy speak is used now in regular conversation, and used to, in this sense, what feels like gaslighting somebody. And that has really caused a big discussion. And like you said, there are people on both sides. And you wouldn't be shocked to find out who feels which way, right? When I just opened Twitter and searched Jonah Hill text, one of the biggest, most interacted tweets with on here is Candace Owens, who says there's absolutely nothing wrong with Jonah Hill's texts, but there's plenty wrong with women in society. Basically that, basic respect for your partner is now being labeled as misogynistic from insecure women. Can't say I agree with that one.
Yeah.
Sarah is a surfer. She is her public persona, what you would share, obviously a lot, bathing suits, surfing, that kind of thing.
He knew who she was when they started dating.
Yeah.
And then wanted to flip the script and say, I'm not okay with these things. You knew
these are my boundaries.
You knew who you started dating. And so I'd really like to unpack all of this. I have a lot of thoughts about, what you said, therapy speak, all this stuff. So the first thing about Jonah Hill's text messages is listen, you can have your quote unquote boundaries and things you need in a relationship. It doesn't take away from the fact that you look like a little bitch. That you know what I mean?
Right.
If you can't support your girl modeling, surfing, whatever, she's not cheating on you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like, and yes, if you're, but then here's the other part.
But it just feels
of it.
like his own, projecting his own insecurities onto somebody else by saying they're his boundaries in a romantic partnership. But it's just if those things bother you, you got to find a totally different woman.
Right. And so that's why I think that there is such a discussion on whether people agree with it or not, because people are saying, well, he's saying he has no hard feelings to her. Those are his boundaries that he wants in a relationship. He's not saying he's going to skewer her for it. But I feel like that's just a way to get around. There's so many layers to it that it's that's not the kind of guy I want in my life, who's going to be you can't do this and you can't do that, and is going to be insecure and can't hype up his girl.
Yeah.
But then there are people who have boundaries in relationships where they go, this is what I want, and okay, they're not compatible. So that's what I'm taking from this, is that they are not compatible. he seems like he has to work through his own insecurities. That's what I got from it. And like you said, and now you brought up the therapy. People are like talking a lot about therapy now, and therapy speak. And I read an article which I thought was really interesting about this. It's that therapy is obviously such a great thing, and it helps a ton of people, and it really is a lifesaver for a lot of people. I can see how some people can use it to manipulate other people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like make them feel less than.
100%.
They don't
you can
abide by what their therapist is, and it becomes very, and the article I read,
I don't like that I'm using the word, but you can weaponize your own therapy onto somebody. Well, it's like, well, my therapist told me this, and then it's kind of like,
it's like I read it kind of has to do with that, where it's like now we're speaking in HR terms, where we're like two human beings having a conversation, and now you're bringing your therapist is. Now if you're going to couples therapy, a different story, you know what I'm saying? But I do feel like there is a line that can be crossed where people think they're better than other people and say, well, my therapist said this.
And by the way,
I'm creating boundaries.
Yeah. By the way, I have been to therapy.
Yeah.
And therapy is great, but also I have not I feel like we're very heavy on using the term like therapy speak and like these types of words, but I feel like our culture on so much of it like online has used these words when I can't really say my therapist has ever used these words with me or like growing up when I was when I was in therapy, I can't ever being like, well, let's talk about, and then like enter XYZ buzzword that now we're all so concerned about.
Yeah.
I'm like, is that really something that, like now we say it's therapy speak, but it doesn't really feel like therapy
right.
speak.
When like you said, when I was going to therapy, like I don't remember any of these things being said. And obviously everyone's therapist is different. So everyone can speak to their own thing. And I don't want it to come across like we're speaking, because we've both been. Yes. And like I said, it's a lifesaver for some people, and it really, really helps. And it can be a really great thing. In
this case, it feels like Jonah Hill was using his experiences and his time, because he's been very open about all his time in therapy and how it's helped him. There's a whole Netflix special about it, which is great. But it feels like that leaked into some of his personal relationships, where now on Sarah's end, she is now vocalizing that she felt extremely gaslit by him.
Yeah. And I think that's very fair. And I do think there is a line where people cross, where instead of separating therapy and their own life, they start using, like you said, to gaslight and be like, I learned this and I have a boundary and this. And it's like, well, talk to me like a human being.